Well, how are you all today? End of a long day. How's it been going? Have you had a chance to look at areas that you might like to get involved with? Any hands up? Are you still ready for more? Good. Just before we get started, because I just have a show of hands about people who are here who might be graduates and students coming into the workforce for the first time. The only graduates, we've got a few there. People who are maybe changing careers, moving on, so quite a while. And people who are maybe coming back into the workforce, haven't taken a break. A good mixture of everybody. So I hope today that we cover this area of employability for all of you. Okay, so just briefly, I'm Deirdre Dowling, I'm a career coach. I'm based here in Ireland. My background is in ICT. I worked for IBM for many, many years as a project manager, learning consultant, and I was the coaching lead for coaching and development. And 5 years ago, I set up my own coaching business, specialising in CV interview skills. People go in big organisations, maybe going for promotion, and also to help people when they're at that critical stage of maybe transferring their skills from where they've been working already into a different area, a different sector. Now I'd like Breda Nuttall to introduce herself.
Just forgetting my name. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Breda Nuttall. I work in London and in the London area, and I work with students, schools, and colleges. And my aim is to support students to make good decisions about the careers that they want to go into. I talk to employers almost every day, and I'm liaising with major employers all the time. And I can say quite categorically that it isn't all about academic ability. The employers are crying out for applicants who've got the skills they're looking for. So, really, it's the opportunity today to focus on those skills. And we've called the session today Employability. So during the session, we're going to be asking you to think about how employable you think you might be. So first of all, I'd like to set you a challenge. We'd like to set you a challenge. Is everybody up for a bit of a challenge? Yes, I'm seeing some people.
Come on, Dublin!
I'm seeing some people nodding their heads, but actually it's a really good challenge. So if you think you're clever, and most of us do, it's a good challenge to do. So, right, this is a cryptic clue, as you might have imagined. And the clue is coping with a bad tum. So it's a cryptic clue. The answer to the clue is a one-word answer, and it's an employability skill. 9 letters, 1 word. And this skill most employers are looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 minutes. That's a long time, by the way, to answer this. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I can't see my watch because I've got the wrong glasses on, but anyway. 2 minutes to answer to get the answer, and once you've got it, just put your hand up. So, okay, here we go, 2 minutes.
So there's an anagram in there, somewhere.
Put your hand up if you've got it. Put your hand up, right up. Yeah,
Go on.
What do you think
Give
the
it a
answer
try.
is? No, but it's a good try. It's an anagram, so look at coping with a bad tum. It's a 9-letter word, and it's an employability skill.
Another try.
No, but that's a good answer.
Okay, the lady over on the right.
Competence is an excellent answer. It's not the answer I'm looking for. Look at the letters in the...
Lady at the back there, Breda.
Lady at the back. Organise is great, but it's not the answer I want. Yes, sir. Say again?
Resilient.
Resilience is good. It's not the answer I'm after. Okay, I'm going to give you a clue now. You're partly right, but you're wrong. It starts with a C. Character's wonderful. It's not the answer I'm looking for. Okay, what I want you to do now, Dublin, what I want you to do is just have a look at the letters in that coping with a bad tum and see what word you can make that would be regarded as a employability skill. The first 3 letters were right, of communication. Competency, excellent answer, but it's wrong. Compassionate's wonderful, but it's wrong.
Breda, I think we're up to 2 minutes.
Oh, we're up to 2 minutes. I'm afraid we have to
We
stop.
were hoping.
Okay. All right. Is anyone else like to have a quick go? No? Fantastic answer, but it's wrong. Okay. The answer to that cryptic clue is computing. And computing is regarded as a key employability skill because most organisations will be interested in applicants who have IT and computing skills. So it's really one of those skills that if you don't have it, it would be good to get a little bit skilled up in it if you can. So that's a key employability skill, and it's also one of the skills that's in real shortage, not just in Ireland, but also in the UK. We're really struggling to fill some fantastic vacancies, but we don't have the talent in IT and computing, and that's a difficulty in terms of recruiting. Incidentally, when you were thinking about the answer to that clue, what were you doing? Based on the last experience, this could take a while. What were you doing when you were thinking about the answer? You were doing what? Begins with a P. It's 2. You were? Problem solving. Okay. Problem solving, another key employability skill. Employers are looking for people who are analytical, who can solve problems, and who have computing skills. So I'd like to say well done, everyone, but it was well done. We got some really good words out there. And now I'm just going to hand back to Deirdre.
Okay, so tell me, a question to the audience. What do you think we mean by employability skills? What are the employability skills that you might have? So we're not talking about your academic qualifications. Experience, yeah, experience in life, very good. That's the sort of answer we're looking for. So it's not even necessarily always in the workplace. Experience in life. Anything else?
Soft skills.
Your soft skills, sorry? Your transferable skills. That's exactly what they are. They're the transferable skills, and the definition of it are those non-academic skills which employers value and which make us a preferred applicant for a job, i.e. more employable. So there's an awful lot of those skills that they're not particularly job specific. They're the ones that you can take from any background that you're in and transfer into another one. So say, for instance, we've got some people here who have maybe been out of the workforce for a period of time. So I work sometimes with people who have been long-term out, and what I say to them is, look at your everyday life, what you've been doing in your life, and what type of skills are you using. Just for instance, you've got somebody maybe who's been a homemaker, and maybe, so they're managing a home, they're managing a budget, they have to have really good time management if they have, say, children going to school. They might be involved in the community outside of work. You might be involved with, say, a sports club or something, and you might be involved in helping with communications or marketing, something like that. Don't always think just about the fact that maybe you haven't been in employment at the moment, and that's actually the same for graduates as well. In your past, what have you done? What sports and hobbies did you like? What did you do? Did you take lead roles in anything that you're doing? In teams, at college? Were you involved in any of the different, the variety of different things going on in college life? So these are the transferable skills that you would have had that are not job specific,
but can make you a really good candidate in different roles. So let's have a look at some of them that are really the ones that are asked for in the marketplace today. We talked about computing and we talked about problem solving, but the other ones are teamwork. Look how important it is to have teamwork in a role. You're often there with other people. How you get on with other people is going to be crucial to how you get on in your role, in the job that you have. Because we're not there on our own. It might not be a particular team sitting together, but it might be, say for instance, if you're working in a hotel and you've got the receptionist, you might have a doorman, you might have somebody, the cleaner, you might have the HR person, you might have the person bringing in the post. You've got a team of people who are part of your working life, and how you work with them, how you communicate with them are some of your transferable skills within a teamwork environment. We also have commercial awareness. Do you know what's going on? I expect what we would call it a bit here in Ireland as well is a bit of cop on about what's going on in the economy. Listening to the news, being aware of what's happening, and really being able, when you're going to an interview, being able to display these types of characteristics, these types of skills that are going to separate you from other people who are being interviewed, so that you know, do you have drive as well? Are you really committed? When you're working, are you really driving to be the best that you can be? Languages, obviously, and we're in a great situation in Ireland where we have some global organisations who are looking for people with different languages, and it's been great here today to meet so many people from different countries who are coming to Ireland to work because we have these jobs available. Social media, that's something that's really growing with us. Whether we're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, however you're marketing yourself in whatever digital economy, they're transferable skills that are not job specific, but are really useful for you moving into a different role. And you're going to be trying to express those when you're having interviews. So why is there a focus on employability? So what's changed that we've gone from maybe the person going in for a job, you're wanting to look at what academic qualifications they have, some experience that they may have. So what's changed that they're looking now for a more well-rounded person, not just the academic qualifications. So it's not just what you see on the CV. Your CV can be quite standard, set. You've got your qualifications side, you've got some experience, you've maybe got some IT skills. But when they meet the person in front of them, you really need to display the transferable skills that you have so they can see the drive you have. There's increasingly complex work practices. We have many organisations in Ireland that are global industries. The processes are very complex. We're dealing with people all over the world, different time zones, different languages. So dealing with complex processes and contracts, that's changing. So we want people, who can understand that and work on those skills. Greater flexibility. It used to be that you sit in one job and you do that and you have a qualification for that. Employers want more from you. Employers want to see how you're developing yourself, how you're developing other people. What are you really contributing? So again, when you're in an interview situation, how did I contribute more than my job spec, more than my job description? What else am I doing? How flexible am I? Interacting with consumers, again, we have the call centres, we have large retail areas. How do you treat people? Those transferable skills, your emotional intelligence, how do people relate to you? Getting that across in an interview situation, is really something that, would favour you strongly for being the right person for the job. Reduce supervision. Again, somebody who's got drive, they're going to learn quickly. If you can show that drive that you have in your life, as I say, it doesn't have to be always in the work environment, but outside of that as well. Where have you risen to the top? Where have you been a leader? And teamworking. Again, we've mentioned that. You're in a team, how you relate to people, how they relate to you. What do people think about you? Look for feedback as well. And when you're going for an interview, talk about the feedback that people have given you, about how well you're respected, how well you've got on in your jobs, how you've climbed the ladder, how you've helped other people. All these things that they want to see a very well-rounded person who hasn't just got a certificate, a diploma, or whatever. There's far more to you than this.
Thank you, Deirdre. Right, so Deirdre has talked a little bit about why employability skills are important to employers, but we need to think about why they're important to us as applicants for jobs. So anyone like to offer me a reason why they are so important? No? No one like to offer? Fine. So really, employability skills are so important to us, and the need to develop them is really key to being successful when you're applying for virtually any position these days. Because if on a level playing field where all of the applicants are academically qualified to the same degree, and they have qualifications of a similar type, and they're all the qualifications that the employer has asked for, something needs to differentiate them. So the differentiation process comes with the individual skills. And often the applicant's skills in that situation become far more important, almost, than their academic achievement. So, all things being equal, how do you choose between one applicant and another when they're both suitably qualified? Usually that comes down to skills and how they present themselves at interview. And often, even when the playing field isn't quite equal, so you might have a number of applicants who are academically qualified to the level required and someone who just falls slightly short of that mark. There have been situations, and there will continue to be more situations, where the employer chooses the applicant who has the better skills, because that's how important employability skills are to employers. So I'd like to, well, Deirdre's going to start, but we'd like to tell you a couple of real-life stories that I think demonstrate that perfectly. So I'm going to hand over to Deirdre for hers first.
I had a client a couple of years ago who came to me because he felt he didn't know where to go in his life. He'd actually been a homemaker for many years, for more than 20 years. And when it came to the stage that his family were grown up and moving on, he wanted to see what he could do with his life. When he first came to me, he really felt he didn't have anything to offer. And then I started to talk to him about things in his life and what he'd done and his life experience. I then worked with him on what is it that he'd be interested in doing. So this was a plan that took us a couple of months to get through. So the result of it was that he decided to do a course. The course was actually on drug addiction because it was something that interested him. So he was somebody who'd left school at 15, who had no academic qualifications at all, and this would be very much an entry-level QQI FETAC Level 5 course. He then did some voluntary work to help out as well and to build up, some more experience. When he applied for a couple of jobs they were with NGOs, non-profit organisations. The first two jobs he applied for both requested that you had a degree. Now, I suggested that he applied for the jobs anyway and to do a really good cover letter about himself and his transferable skills. The long and the short of the story is he was offered these jobs, both of them, even though he didn't have the required qualifications. He did have a very basic qualification in drug addiction, but it wasn't what they had been looking for. But what they had been looking for was somebody with drive, resilience, and motivation. And he could demonstrate those skills from his life, his whole life. bringing out what he'd done when he was working at home, what he was contributing to his community, how he communicated with people, time management, finance, budget, all these sorts of things that made him a very well-rounded person to take on the role that he had. And just another little bit about this person is that they started this job, their first job in 20 years, the week of their 60th birthday. So if I hear people coming to me, and they could be as young as 40, 30, saying, I just can't do anything else, I'm too old, nobody's going to look at me. It's actually, in this day and age, with the demand, it's a candidate-driven market, you have an opportunity to go and work out in the Irish workforce today. So don't let that pass, and think about your transferable skills, and we'll be doing a lot more on how you can do that. Breda.
Thank you. Sometimes we think, oh, well, I won't apply for that job because I actually don't have the qualifications or the experience. And I was guilty of that myself many years ago. I worked for a company, I worked for Citibank in Wembley High Road, and I was assistant branch manager there. And I was there I loved the job. I was there for 3 years, and I really loved it. But then I thought, no, I need to think about moving on. And I saw an advert for a marketing manager job at Citibank head office at that time was in Hammersmith. So I chatted to my boss and I said, look, I really fancy this job, but I don't have any marketing qualifications and I've got no experience in marketing. So I don't think I'm going to apply for it. And he said, why not? I said, well, because I wouldn't get anywhere with it. So he said, Breda, never overestimate your opposition. And that's something really that I think is important to take away from today, because often we might be sitting next to someone who we think, oh, that person's going to be a lot better than I am. They're going to be a lot more skilled and they're going to be a lot more qualified. Usually that's not the case because everybody else is sitting there thinking the same thing. So if you feel you want to go for it and you've got the skills, then go for it because you never know. Now, I did go for it, and guess what? I didn't get the... No, I did. I got the job. So I did go for it. I got the job. I loved the job. And a very engaging young lady. And she wanted to go into marketing PR, but she didn't have the qualifications to do it. But a job came up, and she applied for it. And there was something in her application that made the employer think, I want to see this girl. There was something about her. And I always say there is something about everyone. I work with students of all different backgrounds and at all different levels. And every student has the potential to excel at something. Sometimes they need a little help to do it. So this young girl applied for the job. The employer must have thought, okay, she looks interesting. They invited her in for interview, and she did very well at her first interview. She was invited back for a second interview, and they said, yes, we would like to offer you the job, but all our applicants have to pass an online academic test. So she thought, well, I'm really interested in the job, so I'm up for it, I'll do it. So she did the test. She was nowhere, absolutely nowhere. So they rang her up and they said, really sorry, you haven't passed the test, but because we like you so much, we'd like you to have another go at the test. So she said, all right. So she did the test again, and guess what? She failed it again. So she failed the test a second time, and they said to her, really sorry, we don't take anyone on who hasn't passed that assessment. She was absolutely crestfallen. She saw herself in that role. A day later, the company rang her and said, look, we've had a little chat. We really like you. We think you'll do a great job for our company, and we would like to offer you the job. So that demonstrates, if nothing else does, that don't let anything hold you back. If you think you can do it, usually you can make them believe you can do it. And let's hope you can do it in the end. But the skills that we're able to demonstrate at interview or when we're writing an application are so important, and at least as important as your academic ability. So that's the message that I think we would really like to get for you to take home today. So before coming over to Ireland, I did a little bit of research because I don't know a lot about the Irish market. And what I have established is that it's really very buoyant for applicants, especially not just graduates, but for graduates. And so I think the Irish Times reported that the jobs market is very buoyant for graduates at the moment, which is fantastic news. So there's lots of jobs around. But the employers are still looking for the best talent. They want the best people. And they are still likely to get at least a dozen applications for one job, possibly more depending on the sector. And so that really means that the applicants need to be looking about how do I differentiate myself when I'm presenting myself to this employer if I get to the interview level, interview stage. So it's so important to develop your employability skills. And Mark Mitchell, who is the director of Grad Ireland, says that employers look for graduates who have layered a portfolio of employability skills on top of their academic achievement. So a really strong message for everyone to take home today. But over to Deirdre.
So look where we are today in Ireland. A few years ago, the recession hit, unemployment was really high. I think at one stage we were around 17%. Today we're 6%, 6.3 I think it is, unemployment in the country. So what that basically means is most people who want to work are working. Some people are not able to work in that 6%, but most people are. So it's a candidates market. So what that means is we're now at a stage where nobody was moving. A couple of years ago, there were no jobs to be had because nobody was moving from jobs. They didn't want to leave a secure role somewhere to go and be the last person in somewhere else. So everyone was staying still and hoping to ride the storm with amongst redundancies and everything else that was happening. Today, that's all changed. I mean, I know you had Orla in here just before us who talked about the pharma and biopharmaceutical in sectors. I mean, they're booming, absolutely booming around the country. IT, the number of the big global companies that we have in Ireland, we're so lucky to have so many of them around. Digital marketing, business, finance and construction. You've only got to look out the window here. I can see 7 cranes. 3 years ago, there was nothing like this happening. So it isn't just in the hybrid type of global corporation. It's going throughout the country in every single sector. There's a knock-on effect. So the more people coming into the country to work, obviously we know that there's housing crisis here at the moment because we've got so many people who are homeless and everything. So building is starting in every type of arena. So that means that we need more trades. A few years ago, people didn't want to do trades. They didn't want to become electricians, plumbers, carpenters, whatever, because there was no building going on. Now those apprenticeships are coming through and people they're in great demand. So if you're starting, afresh somewhere, that's an area that is in demand here. And the government has put in place, we currently have 24 apprenticeships in place and another 33 to come between now and 2020. So if you're looking for something like that, they're there, they're ready to be taken up, and there's a demand. Every area that we've covered here has got a demand in them. Every one of these areas is looking for the right person for the job, not just the academic. I know we're saying it multiple times, but it is really to give you the confidence. Apply, send in your CV, make it as good a CV as you can, show your employability skills, and get to the interview and show what you can do for an organisation. As part of researching to do this talk today, we looked at the employability guide created by PwC. And they have 10 different types of employability skills here. Some of them are the same as we've already mentioned, but some of them are quite different. But they're all ones that you show when you are talking to people, you show at your interview. If you can get as much of it into your CV or your cover letter as you can, but this is what they're looking for. Say number 1, develop yourself and others. You know, you might think you're sitting next to somebody in an office, you have a certain role, your own role, but what do you do to help the person next to you? If you've been helping them to develop by passing on knowledge that you have, put that in your CV. You may not have the title team leader, manager, or anything like that, but you're actually doing this. Think about the steps that you take in work every day, or the things that you're doing outside of work. Organising. What else have we got here? Preparing for the unexpected. You know, that you're somebody who's able to see the bigger picture, who's looking for more. And give examples when you've done that, both work life and outside of it. Keeping developing your knowledge. You know, as we've talked about here, and I think you've probably heard it from most of the speakers today, lifelong learning. Whenever you get a chance to learn something new, whether it's going to courses, it's going to networking sessions, then try to. There's a very good website called Alison.com. I don't know if people have heard of that one. It's a website that lets you do online courses for free. So if there's something you want to brush up on, you don't want to spend a fortune, you can go onto Alison.com, and they have quite a respectable range of different courses. Be passionate about what you do. That's not really going to come across so much in the CV. It's when you get in front of people that you show that passion. Be confident in yourself, in what you're doing, and how passionate you are about them. Because if you're passionate, you're going to be interested, you're going to put everything into the job, you're going to be driven, you're going to be the person that they want to choose. And that's who you want to be. Okay?
Okay. All right. What we'd like to do now is we'd like to show you a very, very short video. It's only about 2 minutes long. You take from the video what message you want to get from it. I think it's a great video. And then we'll wrap up shortly after that. So, okay, here we go. Let's hope it works. You may have seen it before.
Slideshow. Oops. From current slide. Control. No, is there anyone who's any good at this? I'm just not getting this to play. Sorry.
Do you have sound in it?
Sound, yeah, so this is a link to a video.
Otherwise, we'll have to act it, and I don't think you'd be impressed by that.
Lovely, thanks very much. Yeah.
That's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are 2 people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? Help! I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do. So.
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
That's one of my favourite videos, actually.
Oh, I'm going to try and stop the next one coming up.
Oh,
Sorry. So, Breda, what
Yeah,
does the
thank you.
audience think of this one then?
So take the message from that for me is that sometimes we think things will just happen for us and we don't have to do anything. But actually, usually we do, because unless we take the action, often nothing is going to happen for us. And especially if you think, no, I'm not ready, I haven't got the skills, I haven't got the experience, and you're not doing anything about it. You're either going ahead even though you haven't and applying, or you're doing something to make the change so that when the next job comes, you will be better prepared. Now, just finally,
So what next?
that next slide
Is not coming on.
is not coming on. Okay?
So self-assessment.
All
Breda.
right. So what that basically we've talked a lot about employability and how important those skills are, and that's the message we'd really like you to take away. But sometimes people need a little bit of pointing in the right direction to decide, okay, well, what should I now do about that? I suppose the obvious thing is go and develop your skills, but sometimes it's not that easy. So we would both encourage you strongly to maybe sit down and do a little bit of an audit of your skills. Just try and assess how strong you are in the key employability skills. I don't have to tell you what they are, you know what they are and you can look them up. But if you feel you're weak in one area, then take some action to put that right. And the tricky bit, though, is that sometimes we don't recognise the skills that we have. Others see it in us, but we don't see it in ourselves. So it's a really good idea to talk to someone who knows you really well and ask them for an honest opinion of what they think your skills are. And in doing that, you come up with a list that's perhaps more realistic. There is one model which will really help you to do that. You may have heard of it. It's called Johari's Window. That's Johari, Johari's Window. And it's just a model which will help you assess, what do I know about myself? What do others see that I don't? And where you might want to develop your skills. So I think, Deirdre, that's about all from us today. Thank you very much for listening so intently, and
the best of luck to everybody with your job search. Don't give up on it. Don't give up on yourselves. Have confidence. Keep going. I'm Deirdre Dowling. I'm a career coach based in Ireland. Breda Nuttall, a career coach based in the UK. If you need any of our details, we both give individual coaching. Please come up and ask us if there's any other questions. Maybe we'll take them at the side there, because I think we've run out of time, haven't we? We probably went over time, I could tell you. Looking at me, I was trying to ignore him. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ladies.